gas, and I was talking to a couple who were doing the divide, and he said, "Is something on fire?" And it looks like my heat shield had come loose and rotated around, and it's all melted. So I just moved it back, just rotated it back up, and I hope that's going to work. I might look and see if I could find a piece of metal to make an extra shield. I guess things were going too smooth. I guess the universe had to throw a curveball here. Okay, we'll see how long this fix holds. I went in the little convenience store and bought a couple of aluminum cake sheets, cake sheet pans, folded it in half, stomped it out flat, shoved it in there, and got it kind of strapped in place. Okay, I hope my aluminum cake baking pans will last the day. It only really, well, that's not true. It needs to last until Sunday. But today will be my last off-road day. I think it's probably will, if I keep it strapped in tight, stay in there pretty good on pavement. But I've got 2 off-road sections today. And I just started number 1, and it's 11:20. So and I missed a turn. Probably from this point, I'm gonna guess 90 miles to my next gas stop. Come on, funnel. Do not suck me into the problem zone.
Hello, friends. This is John. If you've been following along in this video series, you'll know that in part 7, I did a map route recap where I showed and followed along on the screen where we had been so far. And I thought this was a good spot right here to do kind of part 2 of that and also lead up to where this point of the video is. So at the beginning of episode 7, we were here in Rawlins, Wyoming, and what we were trying to do is follow this blue route, which is on one of GPS Kevin tracks, and we were trying to take it to this town here of Wamsutter, where we would, on the way there, we would join up with part of the Transamerica Trail. I forget which one of these it is. And I think it's this purple, actually. We were going to take that and then hook up with the Continental Divide just to try something a little different. And also to be able to refuel rather than going through a long test of our fuel range. Somewhere along in here is where we had an issue with a private road. And in the video, you see us run into a fence, and it was a locked fence, and it was marked private property. And we turned around, but what actually happened, and I'm kind of having, we had gotten off track and missed a turn. And, okay, I believe this is it. So what happened was we missed this turn right here and continued on this road, and at some point, probably here, it just stopped at a fence. And when we turned around and went back, this turn that we missed, it had a big sign there that said private road, no trespassing. We couldn't decide if we believed that or not, but there were just basically 2 signs. There was a sign at the beginning that said road closed way back here by the interstate. and then another sign. And, you know, maybe they were not saying that road, but maybe a road ahead was private. But I got the strong feeling that whoever lived in this area up here, because we could see their buildings, and I don't know if it was a home or whatever, ranch. I got the strong feeling that whoever lived here didn't want us going through there. And not wanting to face some type of altercation, we went back to Rawlings. We had lunch, and then we headed along the Divide Route. It was so windy that we skipped this orange section over here, which was the track we were going to take. And we just kind of plowed down the road. And then we ended up deciding to go up to Lander. So we rode pavement up to somewhere in here. We crossed, this is the road. We went to a little rest area, which is where we saw the guy on the Vespa who was from Spain. And then all the way up into Lander, where we refueled and then took this purple route, which was actually awesome. This was Sinks Canyon, and it was super scenic, and did those switchbacks and back on the gravel. And then we caught back up to the route down here. We came down the mountain, and then this is where we took that massive, it looked like we were riding on the moon, giant dirt road with just absolutely nothing out there and big sweeping curves, and it was so great. And then, so that night we stayed in Pinedale. The next day the route was fantastic, and it took us into Grand Teton National Park. After the Grand Tetons, we did not go into Yellowstone, which would have been very time consuming. But we crossed into Idaho for a little bit, and then we're looking for places to stay, and we ended up finding a hotel here in the town of West Yellowstone, which is in Montana, right here on where the states connect together. After West Yellowstone, we rode all of this great stuff, and then this is where we went to have lunch and gas stop at the little town of Lima, Montana, the fated Lima, Montana location, a location that we would get to know a little bit better soon enough. We left Lima, and the next move was along this road here, which was Big Sheep Creek Road. And it took us through this pretty cool little mini canyon. And in here, it was great riding, just kind of sweeping gravel roads. And like I said, kind of a small canyon. And I tried to do a drone shot, but it was so windy that flying the drone was pretty hard. And then we popped out of the canyons here, and we were cruising along. I was ahead of Steve a good bit because he was rolling behind me taking photos and trying to stay out of my dust. But when I got to this turnoff here, I paused to wait for him to catch up, and I noticed that I couldn't see his headlight at all in my rearview mirror. So I stopped and waited, had some water, waited a little bit, and he didn't come. So I ended up heading back to see what was going on, and he was broken down somewhere in here with what we now know was the failed radiator. So the rescue attempt was basically me backtracking back to Lima, trying to find a shop to try to help him out, then trying to get AAA to tow, and then meanwhile some other riders came up from the other direction, and those guys gave him a push all the way back through all of this twisty gravel, all the way back to the interstate. From there, I said goodbye to Steve, and he went to Lima to try to get things sorted. And at that point, I used just a street route, rather than trying to backtrack all the way through this. I did a kind of a back roads up to Butte. It was actually a pretty good ride. Rode around. There was a forest fire happening, and it was very smoky. And I actually saw the helicopters that were the big double-bladed, I don't know what they're called, helicopters that were scooping the water up out of like a reservoir to dump on the fires. So I missed all of this. Well, we both missed all of this probably awesome stuff. You know, one day maybe we'll do this ride again and not have to miss out on stuff. So anyway, I sit here in Butte. I actually did not have this track on my phone, else I might have tried it. But I was trying to follow a route that I thought was frontage roads. I ended up taking I-15 up here to Basin, and from Basin had a great ride through this light blue section. This is the hard alternate I took, which I forgot what it was called. It was called Quartz Creek Spur, and I did that one, and then this was the Lava Mountain Road, this dotted purple line that I did not take. So then continued on the regular route, and I believe this is the intersection where I met Brendan. From there, I headed into the town of Helena, had lunch, did some work stuff, and from Helena continued on Continental Divide Route until reaching the town of Seeley Lake. Seeley Lake was mostly a recreational area, very touristy, and also lots of campgrounds that were all full. And it's not shown in the video, but I rode up and down this road, checking every campground. And I had Ange doing some research on the back end and texting me. And there was really, I went up and tried all of these campgrounds. And I ended up finding, I can't remember the name of the place I stayed, but wherever it was I stayed, it was the last campground site, I think, available. Next morning, which was the morning of this video, packed up. I got invited to have breakfast with my camping neighbors. It was very nice of them. And then I hit the road, and at my gas fill up is where I discovered that I had melted one of the side bags, so I had to fix that. And then after that, it was back into the gravel, and that kind of leads us to, where this video is right now. And it's not really shown so much in the video, but the closer I got to the Canada border, the more cyclists I was seeing on these trails, and they're all coming the other direction from me mostly. And I was just seeing more and more, and also I was seeing more groups and more people that I'm just going to say maybe didn't look like there was experienced riders. And a lot of times I'm coming around the corner and there's a bicycle on my side of the road, and it was kind of sketchy. And also the scenery, while it was nice, it was there weren't as many like great views. It was mostly just driving down gravel roads in the woods, and it started to wear on me a little bit. So I'm going to be completely honest here. Where we are in this video is me pulling into Columbia Falls, and my plan at this point, and I'm probably there at like 3 p.m, and here's the Canada border. My plan at that point was to go all the way up, following this route, which would be this red line, all the way up, go to the Canada border, take a picture of the sign that says Canada border, find a place to camp, get up the next morning, drive back, come back to Columbia Falls, then go up to Glacier and then go into Glacier and go through going to the Sun Mountain Road and all of that. But that was going to be an extra 200-mile round trip. And I got to Columbia Falls and I started thinking, do I really need to see a sign that says Canada border? I mean, I'm kind of close enough. And also, my goal really was to ride through Glacier. And at that point, I did the thing that all adventure motorcyclists do at what is probably the conclusion of their journey. I went to Starbucks. Actually, I did go to Starbucks, had a cappuccino, and I started looking up the deal with Glacier Park because I had found out that you had to have a reservation to drive through on going to the Sun Mountain Road. And I didn't have a reservation. And when I was looking at the website, it said that, you know, you had to make a reservation a day or two, maybe it was 2 days in advance, might have been 1 day, but they were full. So I was not going to be able to spend the night up at the border and come back, and I would not be able to go through Glacier the next morning. And I was talking to some folks at that coffee shop, and they said, "Oh yeah, well the reservations are only until 4 p.m." They said after 4 p.m. you can just go in and just show up and go in. You don't need a reservation. So I thought about it and I decided, well, it's almost 4 p.m. now. I'll just go through Glacier now, and I'm going to call that the conclusion of my trip. It's close enough for me. So I did. I rode into Glacier National Park. I had the annual park pass that I purchased at Grand Teton, so I didn't have to pay again. And I went in and I saw Glacier. So what you'll see in the rest of this video is my ride through Glacier National Park. Once I exited East Glacier, I went down to Browning for gasoline, and then down this road to Great Falls where I stayed, and then finally down to White Sulphur Springs and to Billings where I dropped my bike off for shipping home, and I took an airplane back to my house. So let's pick up now, heading to the entrance of Glacier National Park.